Good afternoon. Ken Jollop from BIS Commodities here in Cedar Rapids with a wrap-up for the week of October 18th. Corn market this week, firm. We were up about 8 cents on the week. Soybean market up about 24 cents on the week. And the wheat market up about 13 cents. News for the week in the grain, generally quiet. The lack of government reports once again put a damper on our trade. Now the government did finally vote to come open the other night, so we'll slowly see a stream of reports being released to us. We are back to where we got the weekly export number here this afternoon about 2 o'clock. This number goes back to the week of October 3rd, pretty much in line with what the trade was expecting as far as the sales for the week. Now they did come out and announce here today also that they'll be tabulating and coming out with the weekly sales, next Thursday and then on the 31st. Now it's quite possible that the report on the 31st could be a large one, as we know China has been active in our markets here, during the government shutdown, with a lot of talk of corn purchases up in the neighborhood of 1.2 million metric tons. Bean purchases could be in the 2 to 2.4 million metric tons range. So it'll be good to get these sales out in front of us and get everything back to work here. Also, we found out this week that the October crop report and supply and demand report has been canceled. The tabulation will go out and the government will issue a November report on the 8th for the crop size here in the country, and also an updated supply and demand at that particular time. With all this news this week, we primarily focus on the demand side of things, firming these prices up, with the active buying from China. I'm sure we also had the usual routine business being done, during the past couple of weeks, as we have slowly become competitive in the world corn market, as the Ukraine and Black Sea markets have firmed up slightly while we were coming downwards as the start of harvest. So the wheat market this week once again provided some spark. A lot of activity in the wheat pit as there's concern about the Argentine crop getting smaller. There's concern over some of the higher quality wheat as far as being available. So we've seen a lot of spread activity this week with the traders buying the wheat, buying and selling corn, buying wheat, selling beans, possibly pushing that spread back out towards what some people would look at maybe $3 range, in the corn versus the wheat. So that market has led some support for us this week. When you look at the kind of a summary of the week for the grains, we continue to talk about the yields, and the yields continue to be surprisingly much better than expected in the corn, particularly when you get east of the river, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Out to there, it seems like the 200 bushel number is quite common for corn, and when you get on the west side of the river, through the Iowa range here, we've got a lot more variability, but still the yields seem to be, a lot better than what we expected, 30 days ago. On the bean side of the equation, in the what we call the heart of Iowa, where we had the heat and concern back in the early September time frame, beans are still better than expected, but as far as, say, a percentage of that versus the corn, probably not as big. It seems like we kind of run in the range of 40 to 45 in the middle part of the state. As you spread out around that particular heart, the yields seem to improve more in the common 50 to 55 bushel area. So corn yields, across parts of Iowa, 180, 200. Then you get into the areas that were not quite as extremely affected by the early wetness this spring, and of course the heat during September, and then you hear the 200 bushel yields are better. So it'll be very interesting as we move into the latter weeks of October into November, to see what type of national average we could come out with on the next report for corn and beans. Livestock market this week, we did see firming of the market early, and then we had a sharp downward movement on Thursday afternoon to actually close the hogs and cattle markets down for the week. Again, the weekly reports, the cattle on feed report has been put off till October 31st, to get that update. The weekly CFTC report showing the positions, of the traders will not be released. It's going to be interesting to see, as we have seen this short covering rally, particularly in the corn and in the wheat, to see where the funds are. They were record short corn here a couple weeks ago when the government went into their shutdown. So a lot of stuff's going to be caught up with next week, with the reports coming out. Harvest progress will be out Monday night, and to see where we are. It seems like we are pushing along quite quickly with the soybean harvest. Corn harvest getting a good foothold here in the western belt probably over the weekend. The weather looks ideal for the next 5 to 10 days. Somewhat cool but dry, more typical for harvest this time of year. So look forward to all these reports coming out next week. Get ourselves caught back up in the business of news, and move on towards the 1st of November and get the crop report out at that particular time. So we'll summarize it that way. Have a great weekend and a safe weekend in the fields. Thank you.